The Info Pane. This podcast is at the basic level. It requires no knowledge of Accordance Bible software, Hebrew, or Greek. The Info Pane is easily the most popular of the many new features in Accordance 11. This new parallel pane offers quick and easy access to relevant resources for every passage. Commentaries, Bible dictionaries, parallel passages, topics, and textual apparatus. Quick and easy access means being able to consult more resources in less time. In this podcast, we'll take a look at the Info Pane, setting its preferences, and modifying our workflow to take advantage of it. The Info Pane displays relevant information for the top verse in the search pane, along with quick links to important resources. Info Pane details. The Info Pane organization is relatively simple, even for biblical texts where we have the most resources. The verse reference at the top is taken from the top verse in the main search pane. The pericope, which comes from outlines, provides the title and verse reference for that particular section. It's a great way to check the literary context of a verse. Next, there are 5 categories of information. We can use the disclosure triangles to show or hide the resources under each. Each of these categories only appears if there's information for the specific verse under study. For instance, the commentaries category only displays commentaries that offer comments on the main verse reference. They appear in the order in which we've arranged them in our library, in the commentaries folder. The Info Pane also displays one set of cross-references. We can specify which set in the Info Pane display preferences. Topics come from an internal database, so they can't be customized. This category also includes links to places in the Accordance Atlas and people and events in the timeline. Parallel passages are taken from the Parallels resource included with every Accordance collection. Finally, if you have textual apparatus installed, the apparatus category shows any textual variants for the verse, in the order in which the resources are arranged in the library apparatus folder. Here's that same Info Pane. All the disclosure triangles are now open, and all the information revealed. Notice the plus and minus buttons under the commentaries, which we can click to show more or fewer of these reference tools. The organization for non-biblical text is even simpler. The verse reference still appears at the top of the pane. Otherwise, there's just a single category, Tools, which combines all of the relevant reference tools. This simpler organization makes sense here, as there are far fewer resources available for most of these texts. These 2 sample Info Panes are for the Pseudepigrapha and the Mishnah. Info Pane use. The Info Pane is a parallel pane, so we open it just like any other parallel pane, using this button. We then choose Info Pane from the drop-down menu. There are 3 different ways to access the information here. First, we can just hover over a source with our mouse. The information will appear in Instant Details. While Instant Details here is shown as an attached panel, we could also detach it, resize it, set it to automatically appear and fade, even move it to a different monitor if we want. Second, we can Option-click the source and view the same information in a pop-up. This method is great for those with smaller displays or anyone who just wants to save space. The pop-up has the advantage of being scrollable, so we can read the entire article. Finally, we can click, which will open the source in a parallel pane. We can also scroll this parallel pane to read the entire article, then close the pane when we're finished. There are even more actions, so we can use whichever ones best fit our workflow. While a click will open a commentary in a vertical parallel pane, a shift click will open it in a horizontal parallel pane. And a command click, that's Control plus click for UPC users, will open it in a tied tool tab. The apparatus uses the same exact commands. If we click a cross-reference, Accordance opens it in a text tab. The same is true for a shift click. However, a command click will open all the cross-references at the same time. Click on a topic, and Accordance will open your default Bible dictionary to the article on that topic. Shift click and it will search the Bible for all the verses on that topic. Command click does nothing special. It works the same as a simple click. And for items in the Atlas and Timeline, a click will open the tool to that person, place, or event. So will a shift click. However, a command click will identify all the persons, places, or events in that tool at the same time. The additional actions work differently in the parallels category. Each parallel has 3 different lines: the resource title, the pericope name, and the parallel verse references. The actions are all simple clicks, but where we click makes a difference. If we click the resource title, we open the parallel resource to the verse reference. Click the pericope name, and it opens to that pericope. And clicking the verse reference opens it in a text tab. One thing slides can't convey is just how fast the info pane is, or that it updates instantly when switching passages. It allows us to move through multiple passages quickly and easily, consulting many different resources on the fly. Here's a live look at the info pane and its various resources. I can hover over the commentary and read the first snippet in the Instant Details panel, or Option-click it to read the entire section in an Instant Details pop-up. Let's add a few more commentaries here. We can also just click the resource and open it in a parallel pane. Let's go ahead and remove those extra commentaries and look at the cross-references. Again, we can hover, click to open one of them in a text tab, or Command-click to open them all in a separate tab. In Topics, we can hover to read the Bible Dictionary article, or Shift-click to search the Bible for all the verses that relate to that topic. Here's a link to the Accordance timeline, which shows this event in its chronological context. Notice just how quickly the info pane updates its information as we scroll through these various passages. Now let's jump to Mark, where we can see the difference between a topic linked to a place and a link to the Accordance Atlas. Now let's close the commentaries and the cross-references sections and look at parallels and apparatus. Click the parallel resource and it opens to the verse reference. Click the pericope title and it opens to that pericope. However, if we click a verse reference, it just opens to that verse. The apparatus category works like the commentary category. In this case, I'll just hover over each of these resources so we can quickly see what each has to offer. Info pane preferences. We can customize the info pane's appearance in 2 different places: the info pane display and the library. Let's take a closer look at both. We can open the info pane display preferences by selecting the info pane, then right-clicking and choosing Set Info Pane Display. Here, we can set the font, font color, background, leading, and so on. Changes here are instantly reflected in the Preview section at the bottom of the window. We can also set the number of commentaries that initially appear, along with whether or not to show the covers, and, if so, the size of the covers. Cross-references. The default for cross-references, and the module we recommend, is the Enhanced Treasury of Scripture Knowledge. It's now included in all Accordance 11 collections. However, we can choose a different resource here if we prefer. Finally, we select the Bible or other text we want to use for the hypertext links. Just a note on this last setting. We're often asked why we allow users to set a primary and an alternate text. The short answer is that it allows users a wider range of choices. Scholars, for instance, often prefer using a Hebrew Bible and a Greek New Testament. Those using an English translation without an apocrypha may choose to put an apocrypha in the second text, or a secondary corpus of interest, like the Apostolic Fathers or the Pseudepigrapha. Finally, those whose primary fields of study are not the biblical text can choose 2 entirely different corpora. The content and order of 3 InfoPane categories is based on the folders in the library that bear the same name: Commentaries, Parallels, and Apparatus. All we have to do is to rearrange our resources in each folder in the order in which we'd like them to appear in the InfoPane. Click and hold on the resource, then drag and drop it to its new location. Remember, they will only appear if they have something relevant to say about the passage at hand. That way, Old Testament commentaries do not appear in New Testament passages, and vice versa. What if we want to use a different resource, say one that isn't in one of these folders like a study Bible? All we have to do is drag and drop it into that category folder in the library. For example, we can move a study Bible into commentaries. Now, it will show up in the info pane as well. The same is true for some books in other library categories, like the Encyclopedia of Bible Difficulties and Hard Sayings of the Bible, both of which are categorized as Biblical Studies tool. If any part of a resource is organized by reference, that part of it should appear in the info pane once it's placed into the commentaries folder. Just for your information, here's how I've arranged my own commentaries folder. Info pane workflow. So what kind of differences has the new info pane made in my workflow? I'm glad you asked. After working with the info pane for just a little while, I am already seeing my workflow improve in 4 different ways. First, it offers better guidance to profitable lines of investigation. Second, I now have faster access to more resources. Third, I'm using fewer custom workspaces and more dynamic use of the ones I do have. And finally, more effective use of screen space. Accordance 11's info pane is a new feature and one that's quickly gained a lot of popularity. I trust this podcast will help you use it more effectively. This has been Dr. J for Accordance Bible Software. Thank you for watching this episode of Lighting the Lamp.